So, ang session 2 po ay ang principles and strategies in enhancing ginhawa. So, yung impact of the pandemic on our sense of ginhawa or well-being. So, alam ko po prior to the pandemic, marami na rin talagang challenges, no? I'm sure sigurado 'yan tayong mga tiga-UP, tiga-government, mahina tayo sa balanse, no, ng self-care at productivity. Hindi naman dahil sa atin lang, although yun na nga, usually yung mga taong sumasali sa ganitong trabaho, malakas ang malasakit. And on top of that, admitin na natin kasi the way our work demands sometimes don't allow for such a balance. So actually, napaka-importante po na ma-acknowledge natin na meron tayong individual na mga ginagawa, mga pinipili, at meron din pinipili ang sistema para sa atin. So kahit gusto natin mag-self-care, naiintindihan ko po, para sa marami sa atin, parang hindi natin maisip paano isisingit ang self-care. Okay, so yung bago pa pandemic, 'di ba, mahirap na nga ang work-life balance. Paano pa nung nagkaroon ng pandemya? Ang pandemic has left a lot of things uncertain and unpredictable. So marami tayong hindi natin alam kailan 'to matatapos. Nung una, 'di ba, akala natin isang buwan lang, 2 buwan, 6 months na po, at kung paano ito malulutas. So ay hindi lang po ito 'yun, 'di ba? Our policies change from time to time. So national policies, government policies change. So we always have to adjust. Kaya nga po yung sinasabi ni Doc Bo, totoo eh. Wala pang new normal kasi kada linggo nagbabago na naman. Hindi natin alam kung ano ang new normal. Sa UP po, bilang microcosm ng gobyerno, medyo ganun din po, di ba? Nag-iiba-iba din ang patakaran kada linggo, kada buwan. Sa accounting, 'di ba, dati okay lang ang e-signature, ngayon kailangan ulit, etc. So marami tayong hindi talaga ma-predict sa ating mundo. And of course, the pandemic has compelled us to undergo massive changes. So definitely, wala naman pong hindi naapektuhan talaga. Suddenly, hindi naman po natin na-design ang ating mga bahay, no, na maging place of work. And so, hindi lahat tayo nakapagplano, no? Suddenly, bigla tayong nasa kusina, and doon na lang kasi yun na lang ang pwedeng, lagyan ng computer. Yung iba po, suddenly, naalala ko po nung una, nung wala pang public transportation, 'di ba, napakahirap po makapasok. So yung current work and home arrangements are so different from before. And this is actually not the same as work from home po. Kasi ang work from home, dapat by design yan, di ba? One, dapat na informed consent kayo. Pinili nyo ba ang trabahong work from home? Parang karamihan sa atin, hindi po yan ang ating pinili. So dahil hindi natin pinili, hindi natin naisip kung meron tayong resources or meron ba tayong credible plan para sa work from home. So actually, this is not po work from home. This is, di ba, di ba, forced to work as we're quarantining in our homes. Parang ganun po. So medyo iba po ang So I'm highlighting this difference kasi I want us to have compassion for ourselves and each other. And if you're a team leader, no, I want you to have compassion for your employees. Kasi hindi po madaling mag-pivot ng, 'di ba, ng work process na hindi po nakaplano. And the pandemic is highlighting our individual, family, community, and government vulnerability. So yun na nga po, kung ano yung mga medyo challenges po of working in a UP system, in a government system, 'di ba? Talagang hindi na natin madiskartehan. Noon, baka mayroon pa tayong mga creative plans. Ngayon, talagang kumonti, hindi naman po naubos, pero kumonti na talaga yung mga paraan, yung mga discarding pwede nating gawin para magampanan ang ating mga tungkulin. And at the same time, the pandemic is giving us opportunities to learn more effective coping, more creative working and learning, and more compassionate living. And it's just that the gift wrap comes in the form of crisis. So hindi naman po na dahil sa crisis tayo ito'y may benefits. It's more of dahil nasa crisis na rin lang tayo, um, meron naman din tayong matututunan habang tayo ay nasa krisis. So habang tayo nasa krisis, 'di ba, meron tayong mga nare-revisit, mga relationships, mga taong kasama natin sa bahay. Meron tayong mga na-appreciate na dati hindi natin na-appreciate. Tapos na-realize natin, puwede naman palang hindi pumasok 'no? Karamihan ng ating kailangan gawin, hindi kailangan i-meeting. So ako 'yan, tuwang-tuwa ako diyan kasi baka mas mahirap na nga akong ipabalik sa meeting pagkatapos nito. So habang tayo ay nasa 'di ba, nandito na po tayo sa ganitong sitwasyon, ano yung mga puwede nating gawin para po tayo ay maka-cope, hindi lang, 'di ba, and also to flourish and enhance our mental health and well-being in these extraordinary times. Okay. So, ito po, 'pag merong mga uncertain, unpredictable situations, and the pandemic is definitely a very big example of this, is, um, yung long-term planning po, medyo mahirap na. 'Wag na po tayong masyadong mag-demand sa sarili natin na kung dati siguro kaya natin magplano 10 steps ahead, intindihin natin ang ating mga sarili, ang ating pagod, na malamang mahirap na po magplano ng 10 steps ahead kasi nga laging nagbabago-bago ang sitwasyon. So, mas nakabubuti po na it's okay, 'no, stay focused on the present and what's in front of you. So, kung pati ako po minsan kung ano na lang yung kailangan kong gawin sa susunod na araw, yun lang po talaga ang iniisip ko. And again po, napakaimportante po dito yung mga team leader, yung mga head, yung mga nasa posisyon, 'no, alagaan po natin ang ating mga employees and coworkers kasi po hindi po natin sila puwedeng i-expect, 'di ba, to really plan ahead. Kasi alam naman natin 'yan, 'di ba, paplano tayo ta's magbabago na naman ang sitwasyon, ta's maiinis lang tayo. So actually, it's a better use of our time. We get less stressed if we just focus on what's in front of us. So another way of thinking about that is also going with the flow, 'di ba? From present to present to present moment. Another maybe counterintuitive suggestion po, advice, is you actually aim to make mistakes po. Ano po ibig sabihin nito 'no? I-accept na po natin, tanggapin na po natin na dahil sa sitwasyon na ito, we are working on 'di ba, parang lagi po tayong pivot ng pivot 'no, wala na po tayong napag-rerelayan na structure. Ah, it's definitely very possible and very plausible that mistakes will happen. So sana po kung tayo man ay gagawa ng mga plano, yung mga plano nito ay mistake tolerant, meaning flexible enough siya. 'No, dapat may plan B, plan C, D, E, F, G, 'yan. So meron po tayong mga, redirects 'no, mga, alternative plans. And of course 'pag nagkamali po, lalo na po kung meron tayong mga, ah, in charge na mga tao sa atin, 'wag na po nating husgahan ang mga mistakes kasi nga po it makes sense, 'di ba, that mistakes happen. And when na-frustrate pa po tayo sa mistakes, that's added stress. Right? On top of the already unavoidable stress that we're feeling now. So wag po natin husgahan ang sarili at ang iba pa 'pag tayo po ay nagkamali. Ang pinaka-useful 'no, way to expend that energy is to just say, "Okay, so ano nang gagawin natin ngayon?" Imbes na, "Bakit mo ginawa 'yan? Bakit ganyan?" Or "Bakit 'di ba, bakit sarado ang accounting office?" So, kasi hindi naman po magbubukas ang accounting office 'pag tayo ay nag-complain ng ganyan. Kailangan, sorry na-mention ko lang po yung accounting office kasi nakita ko po sa email, sarado sila, nagdi-disinfect. So, wala tayong magagawa. Kailangan po nila talagang mag-disinfect. So, gumawa na tayo ng plano. Ask questions without demanding answers. So ano po ibig sabihin nito? Naku, lahat po tayo may karapatan magtanong, may karapatan ding mag-suggest, 'di ba? May karapatang humingi ng clarification. Pero kadalasan dahil nga ang sitwasyon ay uncertain and unpredictable, tanggapin din po natin na, just because nagtanong tayo, hindi lahat ng tanong may sagot. So sana hindi na po na tayo 'di ba, bakit ba 'to nangyayari? Bakit ngayon? Bakit sa atin? Bakit hindi natin malutas? Um, Depende po, no? May mga tanong that would generate, di ba, ideas and solutions. Meron din pong tanong, nakaka-increase lang po ng ating frustration na hindi naman po nakaka-increase ng solutions. So, pag ganun po, parang okay lang po, di ba? Magtanong tayo, pero at intindihin natin, hindi lahat po may sagot. Okay, okay din po na ito po, napakaimportante, hindi kailangang magpanggap na okay tayo. Hindi rin kailangang magpanggap na masaya tayo sa lahat ng patakaran, 'no, sa lahat ng mga proseso na nangyayari. So, it's okay to declare your desires without assuming that you are entitled to them. So, meron tayong mga gustong mangyari. Now, kung meron tayong konting posisyon, konting kapangyarihan, na kaya nating magawa yon, then we use that power ethically and responsibly. At the same time, alamin po natin kung ano yung merong, hindi talaga siya mangyayari for now. For now po. So, okay lang po. Now, staying put. Ano po ito? So, minsan po meron tayong mga 'di ba, for example po, I'm sure meron tayong baka sa iba sa atin, kagaya po sa'kin, meron tayong mga nakilala na talagang nagkasakit. Meron tayong nakilalang hindi na gumaling, pumanaw na po. And so we're sitting with this grief, 'no, and this sadness, and it's a very tragic time to grieve for someone because we don't get to attend, 'di ba, the services. Parang there's an element na parang, nangyari ba talaga? 'Di ba? Kasi parang hindi natin 'di ba, nasa bahay pa tayo, hindi natin nakikita. And so when we sit, it's better to sit with our experience of suffering long enough to get to know it and what it is telling you. So, 'wag po nating i-deny ang ating feelings. Kung tayo po ay malungkot, um, nababagabag, kung tayo po ay may tampo, may galit sa mga nagiging mga decision making, ah, upuan po natin yung feelings, 'wag po nating i-deny, 'wag po nating itakwil, and hindi po natin also kailangan mag-react. Depende po, mamaya po pag-uusapan natin what to do with these emotions. It's always better to listen first. Saan nanggagaling itong suffering na ito? Ano ba ang pinaka-wise na way to deal with this suffering, 'di ba? So, yun po ang ibig natin sabihin ng staying put. Um, sa isa pong mga isa-isa pa pong workshop, ang naging suggestion ko po is, kung ito po lahat 'no, hindi niyo po maalala, okay lang po. Pero when in doubt, slow down. When in doubt, take a pause. So yun po ang aking, talagang one advice kung hindi niya po kayo makakinig later on 'no. Kasi 'pag meron tayong nararamdaman, we take the time, slow down, pakinggan po muna natin bago tayo mag-react, 'no? Kung meron tayong problema na tayo'y na-o-overwhelm, na-anxious, feeling natin walang solusyon, slow down and pause, kasi baka po dumating din ang solusyon sa atin, baka maisip po natin. Same po with depression, 'di ba? Depression po kasi hopelessness, feeling natin, "Ay, wala nang magagawa." Hindi naggagaan ang ating mga buhay. So again, slow down, take a pause, para let our other, 'di ba, parang allow other perspectives, listen to others. Baka po may time na makarinig tayo ng ibang perspective para hindi po tayo mawalan ng pag-asa. Okay? So recognize po that the only thing we can guarantee is our commitment. So as an individual, merong mga lalo ng pandemya, hindi po natin siya malulutas na tag-iisa-isa tayo, 'di ba? Kailangan po natin actually magtulong-tulong. And even with that, kahit UP na, baka beyond UP pa po, definitely ang pandemic. And so the only thing we can guarantee, the only thing we can do is what we commit to do, no? And be proactive in coping towards a vision and goal management or achievement rather than simply reacting to and preventing losses. Kasi nga po yung sinasabi po ni Doc Bo kanina, that mental health is not just the absence of illness. So ang coping din po, it's not just dealing with unpleasant emotions or dealing with stress. Um, Ang proactive in coping is, o sige, since nandito na rin tayo, ito ang sitwasyon, paano po, 'di ba, paano tayo makaka-achieve ng ating mga personal goals po. So whether that be family-oriented goals, productivity or achievement goals, or baka meron po tayong mga spiritual 'no, more, personal goals for ourselves. So mas okey yung gano'n pong style ng coping. So ito na po, nandito na po tayo sa emosyon. So sabi ko, ibe-breakdown na po natin, no? So we recognize and accept feelings of being overwhelmed, uncertain, struggling with the massive changes. Na-mention na rin po ni Doc Bo ito kanina, no? In my clinical private practice, marami pong nagpapakonsulta sa amin, sa akin, nagtatanong, meron ba akong depression? Meron ba akong anxiety? Kasi ganito ang nararamdaman ko. And actually nowadays, in the time of pandemic, karamihan nito napaka-normal po, 'no? Hindi porke tayo na-o-overwhelm ay may problema sa atin. In fact, feeling overwhelmed, uncertain, struggling with the changes is a very normal reaction to an unprecedented global event such as the pandemic po. So, 'wag na po nating ikahiya, 'wag din po natin i-pathologize para po sa atin at para sa iba. No, so we recognize and accept that. Now, now na alam natin, okay, tayo'y na-overwhelm or masyado akong na-overwhelm ako. So take a step back and identify what you can and cannot control about your situation. So iba po yung nararamdaman, ang emotions, iba po ang behavior. So pwede po tayong kunyari magalit, hindi po ibig sabihin manununtok tayo dahil tayo ay galit. So actually behavior, we have more control over. Ang emotions, medyo may control po pero mas mahirap, 'di ba? At, so unang-una, we check the facts. Tingnan po natin if our emotions fit the facts of the situation. Ano po ibig sabihin nito? Kaya kaya po nasasabi ko kanina na napaka-normal po ng pagiging overwhelmed, struggling, uncertain, napaka-normal po na pagod or mabagal na pong kumilos. Napaka-normal po ito kasi it makes sense, 'di ba? Because we're dealing with a lot more stress. So if we check the facts of the situation, pandemya, kung 'di ba, lahat ng proseso natin parang times 2, 3, times 10 ang steps, ang process. Hindi tayo maka-relax kasi pabago-bago ang sitwasyon. And so it makes sense. So it fits the facts. So okay siya. Now if sometimes po meron tayong emosyon not justified by the facts. So for example po, nagagalit tayo sa ating coworker kasi sila po ay 'di ba medyo mabagal, mabagal kumilos, mabagal mag-submit. Um, Medyo again po, slow down, take a pause, pag-isipan, okay, itong galit ko justified ba? Now kung kung justified siya, pag-usapan, 'di ba? Pag-usapan ng mabuti, pagsabihan ng maayos 'no, hindi po kailangan sigawan, hindi po kailangan actually, yung mag-raise ng voice. Now kung hindi siya justified, so okay, nafo-frustrate ako even though naiintindihan ko hindi niya kasalanan, even though naiintindihan ko na normal lang na mahirapan siya. So, pero nagagalit pa rin ako, 'di ba? Frustrated pa rin ako. So, anong gagawin po natin sa emosyon na ito? Tatanggapin lang po natin na even though it doesn't make sense, ito ako. Ito ang state ko, nafo-frustrate ako. So, ang sabi po kanina sa previous slide, 'di ba? Just sit with it. And do not act on it. Kasi alam niyo po na hindi naman po justified ang inyong frustration dun sa inyong coworker, ay wag na po nating ilabas sa kanya. In fact, wala na po sa slide na ito, ang sinasabi nga dito, do the opposite. Opposite to emotion, action. So dahil nafu-frustrate ako, even though hindi naman actually kasalanan ng coworker, baka nafu-frustrate ako dahil ako mismo nagpa-panic or marami akong problema sa bahay. So nailalabas ko sa aking coworker. So actually, opposite to emotion, action. So we intentionally try to be kinder pag alam po natin hindi justified ang ating emotion. So yun po 'no. So work towards accepting what you cannot control. So yun na nga po, parang okay, hindi ko makontrol yung frustration ko, sige, pahinay-hinay muna or i-mute ko muna kasi baka kung anong masabi ko sa meeting, 'di ba? Dahil frustrated ako, mute muna. Teka, makikipaglaro muna ako sa aso ko, 'di ba? Para medyo kumalma. And work towards focusing what energy you have on what you can control. Kasi ang napaka-normal po, napaka-natural po ngayong pandemya, lahat tayo parang nangalahati ang ating energy. Tama po ba? Konting galaw, napapagod na po tayo. Hindi po talaga natin kaya yung same workload as before. And from what I heard sa sharing, dumoble pa, dumagdag pa ang workload. When in fact, di ba, a body, di ba, tayo in a state of a pandemic, ako dyan, in my mind, nakalahati ang ating energy, ang ating patience, nangalahati ang ating zen, ang ating kalma. So actually po, dahil napaka-scarce and valuable resource po ng ating energy, you wanna make sure you're allotting it to things that matter and things that you can do something about. Okay. So ito po, mas concrete po, no? Kasi ang kadalasan nagiging problema yung productivity po. Pwede din po natin to i-advise sa ating mga anak, sa ating mga, di ba, mga inaalagang mga estudyante. So we could construct a new calendar, pwedeng daily or weekly. Sa iba ko po mga pasyente, hourly ang aming planner. Kasi di ba sabi ko nga po, they can only focus 1 hour at a time. So depende po sa kanilang energy level, kung paano po namin ima-microplan ang kanilang mga araw. Now, ang calendar po nito, ito ang lagi kong suggestion po. Hindi po dapat puro trabaho ang nasa planner or nasa calendar. Kaya na natin hindi ginagamit kasi nakaka-stress tignan po, di ba? So make sure po, one, syempre, yung activities that you have to do to earn your living. Pero lagay po din natin sa planner, sa calendar po natin, ang mga activities na gusto nating gawin para sa ating mga sarili. So, kunyari, kung tayo po'y mahilig manood ng K-drama, kahit po siguro pasulyap-sulyap kasi maraming trabaho, ilagay po natin sa ating calendar kailan tayo manonood. Pati po yung things that are good for you. So, for example, baka jogging, walking around, na kung safe, and activities that also historically have given you a sense of calm, peace, and joy. So, karamihan po sa aming mga PSS, dahil nagtanong na rin po kayo, karamihan po sa amin, merong mindfulness practice. So, that could be meditation, yoga, and sometimes it's just a quiet sit, 5 minutes. Gazing out the window po, no, para may makita namang mga puno, mga ganyan. Ako po, napakahilig ko po sa tsaa. No? So, yon mga 5 minutes sa aking tsaa. 'Di ba? Pag nailagay ko na sa araw ko, okay na po. And activities that allow you full expression of how you are currently feeling. So, napaka-importante po nito kasi sigurado sa trabaho, baka hindi po tayo feeling super safe. Siyempre, 'di ba? Kasi ayaw natin pag openly nagko-complain tayo, baka nag-worry tayo, baka may ma-hurt sa ating pagko-complain. So siguro, okay na okay po magkaroon ng mga kaibigan na hindi po nating katrabaho. So we can rant openly about our work na hindi po tayo we won't get us into trouble, won't hurt anyone, etc. No? Napaka-importante po. Same po kung meron po tayong problema sa pamilya, we need a safe space with a non-family member that we can talk to about our problems at home. So sabi ko nga, 'di ba, sabi nga po namin, ako, pag pandemic, ang naisip ko kagad, kalahati. Kalahati na lang ang natira. So now is not the time to evaluate your performance and yourself based on your pre-pandemic standards. So sana po baka pagkatapos po nitong workshop, medyo yung mga departments, yung mga offices po, mag-usap-usap kayo, magkaroon kayo ng leveling, no? Ng expectation setting na okay, ano na ba talagang kaya nating gawin? No? Kasi meron naman po tayong kayang gawin, pero mag-iiba lang po maybe ang nature, mag-iiba lang po yung load po. And at this time, there is no such thing as small or big steps or victories. Everything that you are able to do to take care of yourself and your loved ones is a big step already. So, Kung ako po personal, napakahirap po sa akin somehow hindi ko po ma-explain, eh. Napaka naka napa sobrang napapagod po ako mag-check ng email at sumagot ng email. Tapos napapansin ko ba, it takes me hours to finish responding to emails in a day. So, minsan nga nafu-frustrate ako, bakit yun na lang ang nagagawa ko sa araw ko? And then I have to remember na, okay, siyempre dahil nga expended tayo, fatigued, siyempre mabagal tayong sumagot. And then of course, reality is, mas marami tayong emails ngayon kasi yun na lahat ng trabaho. So actually, hindi na masama na medyo few hours of my day spent on emails because that reflects the work as it is now. So yun. So, for example, kahit hindi niyo po matapos lahat ng kailangan gawin, pero meron kayong konting nagawa, dapat po i-reward na po natin ang ating mga sarili. So, ito po, no? I think nasa-sense nyo naman po sa aming mga messages nila, Doc Bo. It's really important to practice self-kindness, no? So how do we know we are being kind to ourselves? It's when we are able to treat ourselves the way we usually treat others when we are being kind to them. Okay? So we try our best not to judge ourselves harshly for mistakes and setbacks. Nasabi na po natin yan kanina. We try to forgive ourselves for any of these. We recognize when we are suffering emotionally. We remind ourselves that we are not superhuman, that we are very much human, and it is part of human experience to suffer when things are not going well. We commit to being kind to ourselves, even when it isn't always easy to do so. And we remind ourselves that we deserve to be shown kindness. So, isa pong concrete practice nito is to ask for help po, no? Sana po, again, sa mga nasa posisyon, sana we set up a culture, no, a work culture na okay lang po magsabi ang empleyado na nahihirapan po akong humabol kasi marami po akong inaasikaso sa pamilya. Um, And then to allow that and to ask for help, 'di ba? Parang kung pwede po kahit this week lang po, baka pwede. Kasi ang napansin po namin, wala 'di ba, tama po ba? Eh, kayo po ang HRDR. Pero sa amin, parang feeling ng mga tao hindi na sila puwedeng humingi ng sick leave. Hindi na sila po puwedeng humingi ng special leave, vacation leave, 'no? Feeling dahil nasa bahay lang, hindi na tayo puwedeng magbakasyon. Hindi po totoo 'yan. Hindi po tama 'yan. We also need a break, right? And we don't need to just because we're at home doesn't mean wala na tayong dapat all we need to do is work. So we need to be kind to ourselves. Okay. So I will present to you the concept of radical acceptance. Ano po ba 'yon? At bakit siya radical? Anong difference ng acceptance sa radical acceptance? So radical acceptance is accepting the present reality as it is without judgment. And this includes the good and the bad. So for example po nito, it is what it is. For the moment, I accept that I will have to work from home, or for the moment, I accept that, 'di ba, all these responsibilities are being assigned to me. So hindi po, kasi ito po 'di ba, opposite po siya ng toxic positivity. Yung idea na, sige tingnan na lang natin yung good 'no, or yung sinasabi, hindi everything happens for a reason." Hindi naman po, sa totoo lang, a lot of things happen without a good or justified reason. And so actually, ang opposite ng radical acceptance is I need a good explanation before I can accept my reality. So radical meaning we just accept because it exists, because it is true. Hindi po, accepting does not mean agreeing, approving, or being passive with our reality. So pwede naman po tayong hindi mag-approve, kaya hindi natin gusto ang nangyayari. We don't have to like the reality to accept reality. So hindi natin siya gusto, but for the exact, this exact present moment, we have to deal with it. Right? So hindi rin po ibig sabihin na gusto natin ng status quo. So yun po ang misconception. Hindi, kasi the moment a solution comes and the solution enters the reality, we will grab it. No? So accepting simply means acknowledging the past, this is what happened, and acknowledging the present, this is what is happening. So how do we practice radical acceptance? we avoid what if statements, diba? What if walang pandemic, or if only walang pandemya, or it shouldn't be this way. Parang bakit ko kailangan magstay sa bahay? These statements, we need to avoid them because this will only redirect our energy away from actual solutions and make our suffering worse. So meron po kasi tayong tinatawag na, di ba, unavoidable suffering when something like this happens. What we don't want to do is amplify, di ba, i-multiply pa yung suffering na po yun. And in fact, meron po dialectical effect po ito. By radically accepting our reality, we can clearly see real and viable options. So actually po, by radically accepting, we can make change happen. But by insisting that reality shouldn't be this way, we're stuck with solutions that no longer work in this reality. Para pong gano'n 'no. So sana po naintindihan, alam ko po minsan medyo mahirap itong concept, pero basically kung ma-practice po natin itong radical acceptance, then actually we won't expend unnecessary energy on things we cannot do something about, and by clearing our minds this way, we might actually generate creative solutions out of our suffering. Baka makahanap po tayo na creative na process para po padali ang mga proseso, or para po mabagaan ang mga trabaho ng mga tao, or para hindi po naman puro mga tagaloob. 'Di ba lagi sila na lang ang sumasalo. Baka pwede, 'di ba makikita natin, the only way out is to remove all these face-to-face processes. If we can do things online, then we can diba, distribute the work more equitably. For example lang po. Pero kung hindi natin ma-accept na hindi, baka pwede pa rin mag face-to-face. Parang, teka, hindi na, di ba? Hindi siya safe. So, ganun po. So kanina pa po, napansin niyo po ba, ang message po lagi namin, wag itakwil, wag i-deny, wag i-repress po ang emotions kasi doon po nagkakaroon ng problema. People who end up clinically depressed or anxious, that's what they do. So the healthiest way to respond, to deal with our emotions is to accept them, acknowledge them, and, to just face them. And also this one, so hindi lang po mga unpleasant emotions. We need to connect with and cultivate the quieter, positive emotions. Siguro po there are less things to be excited about. Let's just be real about that. Although kaya sa akin sa totoo lang po, importante po sa akin mag-encourage ng K-drama, ng mga TV shows, kasi yun na po ang ating nagiging source of excitement and enthusiasm po, di ba? There are, however, positive emotions that fit well with a more reflective, receptive, non-demanding approach to life, especially during life during a pandemic. So one of these emotions are gratitude, no? So not gratitude for the pandemic, no? Hindi po tayo parang, di ba? Again, not toxic positivity. We are gratitude for things that really are adding to our lives at this moment. So work towards making it a habit to take a step back and identify the things you are grateful and thankful for in your current life. Cultivating desire, 'di ba? So instead of kailangan I have no choice but I want to do, we transform that into I want to statements, 'di ba? What do I want to do? I want to take care of my family, or um I want to work on increasing more quiet times for myself, right? Or I want to you know, figure out a way how I can have a peaceful vacation during this situation. Contentment. Work on appreciating what you do have in your current life. Now, again, not in a toxic positivity way po, no? Parang, yung iba nga naghihirap, buti ikaw may trabaho. Hindi po necessarily ganun, no? Things that are truly, truly, we can appreciate in our lives. Not to compare our suffering with anyone else's suffering. So how to make your work from home arrangement work for you? So ito po, kailangan medyo konting tulong-tulong, no? Because a lot of these suggestions assume you have some autonomy in your work from home arrangement. So narinig ko po, na-acknowledge ko po, hindi po lahat tayo may complete autonomy about this. At the same time, kaya po tulong-tulong to help each other, no? Find an environment that works for them. So reimagine your day, week, and month. Accept that your schedules have changed and have a view of the week and month, but also take it a day at a time. And if you have the ability and resources to separate a work zone from the rest of your home, then create this work zone. So, alam naman po natin, lahat tayo iba-iba, no, po ang spatial arrangement. So, kahit hindi po kailangan sariling kwarto, hindi po kailangan sobrang malaking space, but to have, and especially for us, for people with children po, no, who are studying at home, importante po sa kanila na merong designated, this is where I go for school. No, kasi nga po 'di ba napaka-unpredictable and uncertain ng ating mundo, we can create a bit of control, a bit of predictability in our personal spaces. So rearranging whatever space, furniture you have at home so that the work zone feels a bit different from the rest of the house, that could work for you. Minsan po hindi na natin maiiwasan, sabay-sabay po tayong mga family members sa isang lamesa, earphones na lang po, 'di ba, kung kailangan po talaga. So, um, so try as much as possible not to bring work to spaces at home that are usually reserved for rest and relaxation. So kung kaya naman po, sana wag po sa kama, 'di ba? Something like that, somewhere different, or at least same din, mag-designate kayo ng space na ito, relaxation lang po. Use noise canceling earphones if you don't have as much privacy at home, and talk to your family members and explain to them your plan for creating your work zone. So ito na po, nasa pamilya na po tayo. How can families take care of one another's well-being during this pandemic? Okay. So one po, 'di ba? Parang sa work lang, 'di ba? Huwag na tayong mag-assume that things can go, 'di ba? The processes will remain the same because they no longer work for us or in this environment. So same din po sa family norms, no? Sana po magkaroon ng family meeting or at least mag-usap-usap that there are things that, that there are rules, there are norms that used to work before, but they're no longer working now, and that might increase stress and suffering at home. So we need to begin reflecting on and identifying the family norms and myths that shape how family members experience and express emotions. So sana po, kanina po, di ba, paulit-ulit ko na pong mini-message, di ba? Accept, acknowledge emotions without judgment. So same din po, I hope we can cultivate that kind of family norm in our homes. So stop shutting down emotional talk and learn how to talk about emotions in a healthy way. Encourage respectful expression of negative emotions. Kasi napansin ko po, sa aking private practice, parents will say, I want my kid to open up to me. But then the kid opens up to them saying, I'm upset at you, mom. Then nagagalit sila. Why are you saying that? You're disrespectful. So, sinasabi ko sa parents, you want them to open up to you. You have to be willing to listen and hear even the negative emotions. No? And stop insisting that only positive experiences and outcomes are worthwhile. Understand and be reminded that each family member copes differently with uncertainty, loss, and negative experiences. So, hindi po dahil yung kunyari sa atin, tayo nakakaya natin, bakit sila hindi? Iba-iba po tayong mag-cope at iba-iba din po ang ating thresholds, no? Kailangan din po makinig tayo sa isa't isa at hindi po yan po ang aking family member, no? Okay, teka lang po. Okay, go up. It's okay. Yan. So, yan po ang ating example, di ba, ng unpredictable and uncertain situations, no? So, I accept, di ba, na ito na po talaga ang ating bagong mundo. So so understand na each member copes differently, no? So yung iba, mas kailangan ng konting pasensya, konting alaga. Yung iba, kailangan ng mas structure, ng mas directive. Yung iba, kailangan ng mas maraming space. So ganun po. So So start listening to each other rather than talking at each other. Give one another multiple chances. So actually po, napansin nyo yung mga advice namin kanina, pareho din po sa pamilya. Have a wider latitude to stumble and make mistakes. So wag na po natin magtaka bakit nahihirapan ang ating mga anak sa pag-aaral. For example, bakit nahihirapan sila mag-self-study? Kasi mas mahirap po talaga. Collaborate on ways to make family time more meaningful. So ito po, no, hindi lang yung parang, okay, let's just try to get work done. Let's try to get school work done. We, as much as possible, same as with the self-care, we should really try to make sure there's quality time for the family. No? Something that I will already tell you, where you're not talking about COVID, you're not talking about schoolwork, you're not talking about work, right? So try to find topics that are light, that are neutral, that give people, diba, even just a mental, emotional respite from these problems that we're having. We can support each other's work study strategies and respect each other's time, zones. So minsan kailangan, diba, we need to give way for internet, etc. Partners and spouses will have to talk about and cooperate on new arrangements, including parenting responsibilities. So, for example, if only one partner did the bulk of schoolwork with children prior to the pandemic, the new context may need for the other partner to step up. So, sabi ko nga, let's just radically accept we will have to create a new routine, will have to distribute responsibility because the environment is different and the demands are different. And in accepting the current context, make a commitment to keep due time for work and due time for family and the self. So wag na po sanang parang lagi na lang, no? Don't make these domains compete with each other. Accept, for example, na, you might, for example, right now, diba, I have to stay in this room for this webinar. So I cannot do the errands for my family at this moment. So parang medyo, give and take lang. Accept and be grateful when you can have even just 30 minutes to yourself every day. And somehow, especially if you have young children po, napaka-importante po yung sense of routine, no? So, bedtime stories, eating meals together, having some playtime, knowing when they can approach mom and dad, that's very, very important po. Yan. So, tayo po na may mga direct reports, let's remind ourselves that everybody has limited time and limited resources. So, hindi ko na po i-read out loud yung slides, no? Kasi nasabi ko na po yan kanina. I-assume natin actually, even though it's work from home, people have less time. Ako yan, half the time. Promise. Assume that they will maybe have 4 hours of productive time and the rest are trying to just keep up, trying to deal with their home lives, etc. Understand, no? Get to know people's unique contexts. And avoid delegating work that requires more than the usual time and workload allowances. Okay? And again, let's recognize, for example, let's recognize that we are not distributing the work evenly right now. Mukhang from the sharing, merong mga tao, sa kanila napunta karamihan ng workload. So let's recognize that and that is not the norm, that the moment, diba, that we are continuing to try to find solutions for more equitable distribution of the work, express our appreciation for their efforts, and really try to delegate to more people, no? And make allowances for non-normative quality issues. So wag pong sanang perfectionistic sa pagli-lead ng mga tao. And respecting boundaries, pati sa amin po, no, minsan nahirapan kasi 9 p.m., 10 p.m., weekends, nakaka-receive po ng emails or messages and then expecting a response. So sana po mag-create tayo, no, and let's protect a culture of boundaries, no, na pag tapos ng trabaho, pag work hours is done, it's done. And in cases where you have to send emails or messages, state that it is not urgent and it does not require an immediate response and only for emergencies. So clearly label what are emergency messages and what are not. Now, just because it's work from home doesn't mean people should be responding right away. Monitor any changes in people's productivity, but make sure to contextualize, no? So, i-monitor na pa rin po natin, and from a standpoint of curiosity rather than assumption. So, intindihin po natin, as I said, we don't expect productivity to go up, right? If it did go up or if it maintained, my goodness, right? Really, please praise, appreciate, compliment, give a bonus if you can to those people, because it's really, really difficult to maintain our productivity at this point. Um, Talk to people about how they're doing and what kind of practical support they may need, and address what you can and acknowledge when some needs are beyond what you can address. And then leverage your relationship with people. So mutual trust is the foundation for honest conversations about practical and psychosocial concerns. Ano po ibig sabihin nito? Lalo na po ang Pilipino, di ba? Wala namang hindi personalan, even sa trabaho. So we need to still cultivate respectful, compassionate relationships with each other para po, if nahihirapan po sila or they need help, they will feel safe in approaching us and talking to us, and vice versa din po. Enhancing workplace well-being involves not just MHPSS services, but also simple practical considerations. Kasi kadalasan po, hinihingi kami ng therapy, di ba? Mag-provide po kami ng therapy, or ito po, webinar for people. Hindi lang po doon maaayos, no? So there are certain practical considerations. Napansin nyo, no? Karamihan nun is about setting up the work environment that really promotes well-being. Grab the opportunity right now to reflect on your life and get to know yourself, no? Kahit sa gabi pa yan, kung hindi na kayo makatulog, mag-reflect na lang tayo, no? Okay, ito po napaka-importante po, no? Ito po actually sinasabi ni Dr. Divine. Greater well-being is constructing our lives based on value rather than outcome. Kasi for example po, ibigay ko na lang po yung mga estudyante natin na example. Parang sa kanila, yung mga, hindi, kailangan honors ako. Diba? Kailangan ganito ang grade ko. That's constructing their lives based on outcome. And we know with outcome, it's part effort, part luck, part, diba, environment, and part random chaos. So we can never have full control over outcomes. And so it's better for our well-being to construct our lives based on value. So meaning, for example, my family is a big value to me. And if that is so, I will really set up my time, no, to make space for family. Or my personal space is a value to me, feeling that I have some autonomy over what I do. Then you craft your life based on that. Kasi when we craft our lives based on value, then we never actually fail. Right? There's no such thing as failing to meet our goals, because values are something, right? It's something we continue to work on. It's our compass. It tells us where to go and how to go about things. Now is check-in time. Question number 1. Pagka masyadong mataas ang standards ko at di ko mapatawad ang sarili ko, ibig sabihin ako ay blank. Okay. Ako, medyo challenging ata yan. Isipin nyo ano yung mga concepts kanina. Okay? Pwede rin po English, kahit Tagalog ang kahit Tagalog ang tanong. True or false? Sa radical acceptance, tinatanggap natin ang kasalukuyang kondisyon at kinatatayuan ng walang paghuhusga, di lang ang good experiences, kundi pati unpleasant experiences. Ayan. Okay, last, true or false again? Ang self-compassion ay pagpapakita ng kabutihan tungo sa sarili bilang reward sa mga nagawa nating tama. So ano ba yung mga sagot? Siyempre, number 1, ito ay rigid perfectionism. Pero perfectionism, pwede na po. And then the second one is, yes, true. radical acceptance, no? Accepting things without judgment, both good and bad. And ang last, ang self-compassion ay pagpapakita ng kabutihan tungo sa sarili bilang reward. So, true din po.